He's an impetuous player, Dark. He comes into these tournaments and he always says, I think I'm the best. I deserve this. I will win it. And even when he gets upset and does get knocked out of these events, it never seems to knock his confidence down. He always seems to stay, really focused on that goal. Of course, Elazer there, he's the young one who I think started out a lot more confident, almost at the point of arrogance early on in his career, saying, I'm going to get to the top. But that's being kind of measured now with a huge amount of experience. Yeah. He's more patient. He's a bit more humble in his interviews. But at his core, when you speak to him earlier this morning, you ask him questions, he's still got that cheeky bit of excitement. He's a bit confident. He definitely isn't super afraid going into this match. He knows there's a lot on his shoulders, though.
Yeah, you got to keep a level head, and a little bit of confidence goes a long way as long as it's not too much, that you're not doing the proper preparation for these matches. But Elazer, we know him as a top competitor in the foreign scene. He won Delicious Valencia. He's the only guy other than Neeb to pick up a circuit trophy this year, and he is considered one of the top threats from the foreign players that have come in here. And it's a difficult situation for him to be in. You guys are just talking about it when it comes to offline results versus foreigners. Dark's he's like the foreigner butcher, just bring him in, he'll carve him up and move on to the next round. And that's a scary opponent to go up against.
But as scary as it is, Elazer's always struck me as a guy that when the game actually starts, a part of his brain that would cause you fear or anxiety goes away. I think he's really good at just doing what he practiced. And we were talking about, confidence or maybe arrogance. I think he's just very comfortable in his own skin. He's very much more like a mathematical player. And so I think going up here against Dark, Elazer is someone who can absolutely do this. It's going to be tough. It's going to be life-changing if he does. But I think he's got the tools to do that.
Well, it's time to find out if he can make those tools work for himself. It is time for Elazer versus Dark.
Thank you very much, Nathanius. I am ZombieGrub here, casting with Rotterdam for this lovely ZVZ Decider match. How are you feeling about this one?
I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. I think 2016 was the year where we talked all the time about how much Elazer has grown as a player. 2017 was no different because he did finally pick up that first championship. But this is the ultimate test. I mean, this is where you stopped last year. Have you grown even more since then? Can you turn around what happened last year? It's going to be one hell of a best of 3.
He has to turn around what happened last year, and he has to be the first foreigner in 5 years to break Dark's streak against foreigners. I mean, that's a really tough order. But here we are, getting into the first game of this best of 3. In the bottom left on Mech Depot, it is the blue Zerg, Elazer.
Representing Q-Lash, one of the new teams. He's one of the only guys on that roster. Over here on the right top side of Mech Depot, we're looking at the main base of the amazing Korean Zerg player. It is Dark. Also representing a new team, Ballistics.
Yeah, signing up basically the best unsigned players. Everyone's always wondering, why aren't these guys signed? And it was a good question. Ballistics now definitely the strongest team. If they entered Pro League right now, they would win with just 3 players.
Yes, I mean it's a pretty decent pickup when you start off. You're like, hey, Dark,
Yeah.
You guys looking for a team? It's like, yeah, actually we were. So ZVZ. Now the good news for Elazer is that the one tournament he won this year, which was the WCS Circuit event in Valencia, he did it off the back of fantastic ZVZ. He beat 3 Zergs in a row, beat Nurcho in the quarters, beat True in the semis, and he beat Snoot in the finals. But it wasn't like he slaughtered all of them. Even in that grand final, he was down 3-1. That last game was incredibly close, but at least that is somewhat hopeful.
Yeah, certainly Elazer. I mean, last year when he got as far as he did in BlizzCon, I think everyone was pretty darn surprised. I mean, really, he was the foreigner that got that far. This year, we expected him to get pretty far, but still, going up against the guy that 3-0'd you last year, a player that just has not lost to foreigners in quite some time. I mean, how much better can you really get? You think a lot, but Dark's been stable the entire time, so that's a long way to go still.
Yeah, it's absolutely the ultimate test. I mean, when you look at Dark's results against foreigners, we keep talking about it, but we have to, because it's one of the most ridiculous things that currently is out there. Just saw that ticker, 71 wins and 8 losses. Like, that is not even a real record. If somebody has that on the ladder, you're incredibly impressed. He does it in tournaments against the best of the best out there, outside of Korea, that is. Absolutely insane, but that would make the victory, if Elazer could somehow get it, even so much more special.
That it would. I'm actually not sure what to think if Elazer was the one that got out of this group, except that darn, I hope he gets as far as he did last year, or maybe even then some. But we had normal macro openers from both players start things off. A Balin has finally thrown down for Dark. Could be starting things off.
Yep, I mean, obviously we're going to have to keep a close eye on the production tab to see if somebody decides to create a huge swell of Zerglings and decides to get very aggressive. That bailing nest is definitely quite a bit quicker than on the other side of the map, but I cannot imagine a world where Elazer decides to skip his own bailing nest. It's probably just going to be a little bit later.
He's taking a very interesting third, and of course much quicker than Dark as well. Of course, Dark has his other Overlord, the second Overlord, looking at the usual third, the one that he's just taken. It might be a little confused here until he realizes what's up, but we do have a very fast lair for Elazer.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit scared now. That's lair before the bailing nest. There's still a very good chance that he does decide to throw down a bailing nest. Maybe he tries to keep a close eye and see if Dark is moving out. So far, Dark is doing nothing but producing drones, so he doesn't have much to worry about. And obviously, if somehow we're living in a world where Dark decides to never be aggressive, if Elazer doesn't decide to invest into the bailing nest, he cuts the corner there and he gets a little bit ahead. But this is already considered to be a little bit risky.
Oh, it's super risky. If Dark had decided to punish what he assumed to be a third base, made like 20 lings, realized like, oh, what is happening here? Things would already be getting really hairy, but he does scout it. He already just used a lot of larva on drones. He already had his build in mind, getting an evolution chamber. It might just be, you know, ready to deal with whatever comes out of that lair.
Yep, I mean, this is a very good scout of that one happy little Zergling in the main base. He spots there is still no bailing nest, but he decides to throw down his own Roach Warren instead. Maybe he feels it would be a little bit too less. He sends in another Zergling. He's like, you're actually playing without a bailing nest. That is a super quick Spire without a bailing nest once again for Elazer. While the Roach Warren has already been thrown down at the other side of the map. Obviously, the Lynx had a pretty good feel for the timing of that layer as well. And now I truly wonder, what is Dark's response going to be? Because a simple Roach attack is most likely going to arrive a little bit too late. I love the way that Elazer is playing this, though. He's playing this without any fear. He knows he's taking a pretty big gamble, but so far he's absolutely getting away with it.
Yeah, exactly. This risk has ended up being worth it. Dark is also still confused, I believe, about where the third base has been taken. He's going to assume there is one. I mean, that's a very long time not to go, at least like half during the minerals, you know, regardless if we're actually going to drone it or not, but they're at even drones. Elazer finally slaps down a bailing nest. A bit of a Ling scuffle here, but nothing to really note. It's much more about the Spire versus the Roaches, and I agree with you. If Dark wanted to go a Roach attack, I think it would just hit too late.
It should hit too late. It is going to be hard for Elazer to defend with Spine Crawlers, which is something we see quite often because of the way that his bases are positioned. As Elazer is going to apply some pressure here with all of his Zerglings, he gets the Queen for free, and he might actually be able to get the second one as well. Now, good movement there by Dark. If Dark would have ended up losing 2 Queens, that would have been quite painful. I think these Lings are going to have to head home real soon. Instead, they're going to go for the surround on the Roaches. They'll pick up 2 Roaches, which is quite nice.
Just like 14 more Lings has been a real surprise for Dark. He grabs Elazer grabs a Queen. He grabs a ton of Roaches here. He's going to grab another Queen. Another one didn't have a chance fuse. And he just sends another couple of Lings here that's just like kind of like a little bit snowbally. The Roaches have to retreat.
This is incredibly good for Elazer so far. He's going to get the wraparound once again. Eventually, these Lings are going to get cleaned up, but not before a few drones should go down, a few more Roaches should go down. And don't forget, behind all of this, there are Mutalisk on the way. There is absolutely 0 anti-air on the map right now for Dark. He lost the majority of his Queens. This is incredibly painful for Dark.
This is just snowballed way out of control. I'm not sure even Elazer expected to do that much damage. Now the Mutas are already here on this side of the map. Dark cannot do a Roach attack, but he feels probably pressured to at least do something to bring the Mutas back.
Yeah, I mean, the Roaches are going to buy time, right? Even though they might... Whoa!
Or just GG.
Wow. Elazer takes the 1-0 lead over Dark. Dark realizes he is incredibly far behind. Doesn't look too phased by all of it, though, but damn, he just stepped out.
That was not expected. Well, the GG wasn't expected. The 1-0 lead for our foreigner wasn't expected. Of course, Dark did lose a game versus Elazer yesterday, I believe, and still was able to bring it back. But I really want to point out that that was an all-in that Dark was like, that failed. That wasn't Dark failing to do something. Well, maybe other than scout, I suppose. It was just Elazer finding like a weakness and Dark going like, I guess I'm unprepared.
I mean, once again, Elazer's build was incredibly risky. Super fast layer, no bailing nest, going straight into Mutalisk, only playing with Lynx. But Dark never decided to be aggressive early on. He didn't use his bailing nest for aggressive purposes. He just had it as a safety bailing nest. And obviously losing 3-4 queens was disastrous, losing a couple of roaches as well. And by the time you send out your first 4 or 5 roaches, already having Mutas hover above it, is incredibly bad news, but I kind of just expected him to sacrifice the roaches, throw down spore crawlers, and yes, be very far behind, but we have seen great I mean, it was incredibly rough, don't get me wrong. I'm just surprised. This is one of the very first early exits we've seen at the Global Finals.
Right, that one of the first premature ones that we've seen. I was actually wondering if that was just Dark saying, well, it wasn't that I all in or you necessarily all in, but it was a surprise, and I'm willing to accept that as a loss and then just kind of restart for game number 2, because I'm betting he still thinks he's the better player.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Dark knows what he's doing, and he realizes that he is in a world of trouble. We're not trying to make it sound like he left early. We were just kind of caught off guard by it, as we are hopping into game number 2 on Abyssal Reef. Can this man do what no other non-Korean has ever done? And that is defeat Dark offline. Representing Q-Lash, it is Elazer.
And in the bottom right, representing Ballistics, he is Dark.
Damn, I did not expect this best of 3 to start off like that.
Yeah, you know, now I guess that Elazer is up 1-0. We can always talk about how generally ZVZ is Europe's matchup. But I feel like every time we say that, you know, like Nurchio, right, against his 2 is all Zerg group. Wanted to give him the credit that way, and yet he still lost. It didn't seem to really matter too much. The Koreans still had their mechanics. They still had a general, like, you know, good understanding. And if they don't get the most ZVZ practice, they're practicing against a lot of amazing Zergs. So, like, Rogue and Sue, right, in Dark's case, for the most part. And, well, maybe Elazer's coming back in and saying, like, no, actually, Europe ZVZ is the best. Excuse you.
You know what I love? That Elazer did that while being 0-0. We often tell people they can do something crazy and risky once they're up 1-0, you know, just take a shot at it. If you lose the game, you still have another chance at somehow taking the series. But if there's one thing that Dark has done very often in the past, is once we had a foreigner in the tournament where we expected a lot of, like Elazer last year in the semifinals, or even Seru at Katowice, we all said this is going to be close, going to be epic, and Dark would just slap it down, often with non-stop aggression, and it would make for a kind of ugly series, like almost one-sidedly ugly. And with the way that Elazer played last game, he takes that risk. Like if Dark decides to make 22 Zerglings and a couple of Banelings, Elazer is going to be in a lot of trouble already. Maybe he just took that third base and be like, well, if it gets cancelled, it gets cancelled. I can survive on 2 bases with Lings and Queens, and then eventually the Mutas will save me. But it was still risky. He got away with it. Awesome execution, and now he finds himself in a really sweet position.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the aggression, because that wasn't like playing at someone that you know is always going to macro. I mean, Dark, I kind of expected to make 20 Lings.
Yes.
And the fact that he didn't was like the biggest surprise of them all, even with Elazer's weird, really plays third and fast Spire build. But can he ever get away with something like that again? I'm sure Dark's thinking like, well, I'll just, you know, I'll get the scout next time. I'll be better prepared, and that'll be kind of as simple as that, because I want to beat him in a macro game. Can Elazer actually match him for the Ling Baneling Wars and match him with the Roach Wars later on?
Well, I absolutely do hope that we're going to see a Baneling Nest this time coming out of Elazer. Once again, he's going to go up to 3 bases very quick, but I do expect a Baneling Nest way before the layer this time. Not doing that on Abyssal Reef, I feel would almost be suicide. There is no way Dark's going to let you get away with that twice. Elazer knows that as well. He's going to throw down his own Baneling Nest, but he does have a slightly faster third base, and now I just wonder, is Dark going to do what we've seen him do so often in the past, and that is be hyper-aggressive against non-Koreans, or are they just going to, you know, test the waters, play it safe? Because for Dark, there's an insane amount of, you know, pride on the line now as well.
That's true. I mean, to finally lose against a foreigner in a decider match, that would be quite painful for Dark. He is making a lot of Lings right now. Generally, you do have the scuffles around the third base. Who has the better Ling Baneling micro, who's able to read the situation better and drone when necessary. Dark is about to test Elazer real hard.
Yep, and he's already morphing 2 Banelings outside of the natural Elazer. This is one of these things you have to pick up on, because you know that Dark is going to dance around. He's going to show his 15, 14, 18 Zerglings, whatever it is. He's going to be like, hey, look at my Lings, and then suddenly 2 Banelings run into your natural. Good job there by Elazer, already picking up on that. He's going to see the additional Lings run across the map. Elazer is getting defensive Banes as well. Well, let's dance, right? Let's see who has the better Ling Bane micro.
Those Banelings are just rolling into the natural. They could get a pretty nasty hit. I'm not sure Elazer's paying attention. He is not paying attention at the last second. Splits his drones, and is splitting it quite well.
Yep.
The third base, he's going to be able to deny with the amount of Banelings he's able to save up, and Dark's attack not working out so far.
Nope, it's not over yet though. There's still a couple of Banelings in the mix. Dark gets a good trade there. 2 Banelings for the trio of Elazer. Elazer lost a little bit of mining time, of course, in the natural as well. These Lings are going to try to be annoying, and they absolutely will be, because there is no Queen in position.
That was some pretty good micro. Hiding that one drone that was very, very weak, so only one was picked off. The rest of them are going to just go scout. The Overlord Elazer is checking that left side constantly, so I do believe he knows Dark still has units over there, and he has a couple of Banelings ready to go.
So Dark is droning up behind this. He's taking a small worker lead, but Elazer is catching up real quick. I think that went all right for Elazer. Obviously, he took a little bit more damage than he would have liked to. He was a little bit out of position against those two Banes, but nothing catastrophic. Nothing that we're like, oh, this is going to be hard. He's going to be playing from behind. No, this is still a pretty even game.
No, yeah, it really is. Dark only minimal advantages, starting his lair a little bit faster as well, but we're transitioning into the Roach game, and that's both players throwing on Roach Warrens. Accidental Overlord speed there, but just the lair. And there is the +1 for both of them as well. I mean, my question, of course, is does anyone add any additional tech structures and how fast? See a lot of burrowed Roach play is always very fun. Some people still like that Spire after Roach Warren for the surprise factor. But you know, anything besides Roaches can be a bit risky.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of Roaches and a lot of Ravagers for quite some time. Those Banes connect on the Queens. They don't get much down. The Lings did get a couple of, 2 more Banelings rolled into the natural as we see 5 more drones went down. It was only 3 drones at the left side, but 5 more. Dark, once again, this is what I love about Dark. He's always fooling you. He's pretending that this is the aggression, but there's always another attack somewhere. So getting 8 drones, I think that's the first real successful hit that Dark has made to the economy of Elazer.
What's really unfortunate is that Elazer had that left side of the path of this Aerith covered for the most part with 1 Overlord, but the right side, like, there is an Overlord, there's actually 2 Overlords, but, like, Dark keeps, like, sneaking them in before, like, you know, and he just forgets about them, because it's only 2 Lings every time, not 20 Lings that are obvious on a minimap.
Yep, and it doesn't look like much, but if you take a look at the amount of workers that have been killed, I think it's 16 up to this point, 15 already, and does really add up, right? Elazer has not been aggressive once, while Dark has been aggressive a little bit here, a little bit there, no massive commitment, and then we have one of those quick spires that you were talking about, right after showing the Roaches, making quite a few Roaches at first. And, well, if you're a Dark fan, you gotta love where this is going so far. Because Elazer, after losing those drones early on, is most likely not gonna find himself in a position anytime soon where he's like, you know what? I want to make nothing but Roaches and attack. And even if he does decide to do that, Dark can still make the Roaches on his own because he already has quite a few Roaches out there. So what is Elazer really going to do about this Spire? I think he's just going to have to accept it for a while.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. You know, that 200-200 can sometimes be the difference of life and death, but Elazer not looking to push, probably was anticipating Dark, so then now realizing, like, oh, he's not pushing at all, and just continuing to get Roaches. Now +2 has started. He has gone for Overlord speed, and the Scout should be coming down. Ooh, nice play. Maybe this will not just do damage, but also Scout. Dark is saving up a bit of money, so he's going to be able to get just spend a bunch on Roaches, actually. So not very many mutas at all.
Yeah, but even if you just make a couple, right, it's already nice. You can clear the Overlords of your opponent around the map. It's going to give you all the map vision in the world. Dark is making a lot of Roaches. He's making a couple of Ravages as well, and he even started +2 missile attacks. So he's really not playing a greedy version of a Spire. He's like, no, if you want to attack, you can actually attack me right now. I'm going to be more than ready for any sort of Roach aggression. As Dark does spot there is a fort base on the way, which is quite a bit later than his fort base. And he had Roaches in the natural to deal with this drop play. So we have a couple of mutas being produced for now. Once again, these mutas can be used to just take care of a couple of Overlords from Elazer. And I guess in the end, it's still going to come down to a big Roach Ravager battle.
Yeah, that's again, that's what it looks like. But the Roach, or the Overlord speed is an interesting addition for Elazer here. The mutas are still going to be able to scare them away, but if Elazer's really on point, he could just try and get them spread across the map again.
What?
We have an accidental corruptor is what I'm going to assume on the production tab. I'm not sure it's going to be too helpful, but the Overlord speed points, they did just help deal with potential Overlord drop that could have lasted a very long time. They will put Elazer a little bit into the dark, and perhaps Elazer thinking that it's going to go back into pure Roaches, won't be anticipating the Baneling speed, the mass Banelings that could be coming up with Dark's army.
Yeah, it's almost like Dark already knows there's a good chance you're going to try to make Hydralisk, right? Because you've seen my muta, so you want to get some anti-air, and obviously Banelings with speed. If they do get the connections you're looking for against the Hydras, they can be incredibly effective. But once again, Elazer's at 165 supply. He should have the time to max out. He really shouldn't be forced to take a horrible fight somewhere. And the one thing the Polish Zerg absolutely has going for himself is that he's getting 2 upgrades at once. If he can get a fight with +2 missile attacks but +1 carapace against just +2, it could be quite good, but it seems like Dark is quite ready to party.
That is a lot of Banelings. Even if Elazer didn't have those weaker hasty Hydras, them colliding into a very clumped up Roach Ravager army still works out quite well. And as I said, I'm not sure Elazer anticipates this. His Overlords have been cleaned up, sent away. He didn't see them morphing. Now he finally sees 2 Banelings. Wait a second, that's a lot more.
Yep, a couple of Ravages morphing in the back. He's going to land a couple of Corrosive Balls. A couple of them do connect with a few of these Banelings. Can Dark get the connections that he's looking for?
Maybe. The Banelings actually were stuck behind for a long time, but now they collided, and Elazer was all types of grouped up. His army supply just absolutely plummets. And I do believe Dark is going to get vengeance for last game.
Wow, that is so beautifully played by Dark. Getting a couple of Mutalisks out there to take care of all the Overlords, keeping his opponent in the dark, and then just striking immediately with 30 Banelings with speed. Not getting a second Evolution Chamber, but he never needed it. And I love the way he did that in the end as well. He's like, oh, that could be quite close. And he realized he was blocking his own Bane, so he suddenly just spreads a little path, and suddenly you see all these roaches being blown up. Well done by Dark. That's the Dark that we normally see in ZVZ.
Yeah, almost like sheer force of will there. Just macroed and then pushed, and then I won. But there was definitely a bit more finesse to that. Elazer tried his best to be on point against all the aggression the Baneling hits specifically, but did mess up once or twice, so he was initially down. The Mutas, cleaning everything up, did not let Elazer get in position, prepared mentally for the army that he was about to fight. That certainly affected the game as well. Does Elazer think that the macro game goes to Dark? Is he going to do something a little more aggressive himself this time, or is he still confident in Roach versus Roach?
Yeah, we sometimes talk about dictating the pace in a game of StarCraft 2. Well, that was all Dark. Dark decided how that game was going to play out from the very get-go. From the very first 2 Banelings that made that connection to a few more, and it was never like 20 drones at once, but 3-4 drones over time. They do really add up, and at one point you're looking at 15 dead drones against 0, and then obviously the momentum is in Dark's corner because he's been mining more, he's had a small economic lead for the majority of the game. Love the Spire, keep your opponent in the dark, show up with the Banelings. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Well played as an entire game, I guess, from minute 1 to, it was like 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
But Elazer, hopefully, thinking of what he can do to take on Dark in the final game of this series. Whoever loses here is out, no chance. Whoever wins goes on to the round of 8.
If you talk about things that would scare me, imagine playing for a WCS Global playoff ticket and it comes down to a 1v1 and you have to micro Zerglings and Banelings against one of the best in the world. Like, I'd be absolutely terrified. As we are loading into Ascension to Ire, it will all come down to this game. Can this man repeat his awesome performance of last year? Representing Q-Lash from Poland, it is Elazer.
In the bottom right, as the red Zerg for Ballistics, it is Dark.
I love Ascension to Ire for ZVZ. This is one of these maps where you often see a few more Zerglings being produced early on because it's impossible for Overlords to cover every single possible attack path. There are so many spots where you can hide a couple of Banelings early on, where you can try to apply a little more pressure than your opponent actually thinks you're going, and obviously in the later stages of the game it becomes a little bit harder to attack, especially when it's Roach versus Roach, because the map is so long. You don't really want to fight with -5 roaches that your opponent has as a defender's advantage. So this is one of these maps where you often do see Mutas, maybe even Infestus later on, which would be awesome obviously as a deciders game.
Yeah, late game ZVZ can be really fun to watch. Now, Elazer, as you were talking about, Dark really got the momentum in that last game. He kind of dictated how the game was going to go and then played it out how he wanted. Elazer never got the chance. He didn't get those counterattacks with the Lings. The Roach drop, which would have been a cool idea usually, was cleaned up and even almost anticipated. The Roaches there for Dark were just on point. But I know Elazer does have it in him to be as aggressive, like can control the map, the game, as Dark does. Elazer, not really someone I pigeonhole in anything like macro or micro. I think he has a big potential for both.
Absolutely. He's just a winner. That's what he is. Especially when it comes to ZVZ in the foreign scene. Has an excellent track record. And it's funny as well that he's once again playing against someone, well, maybe idolize is not the right word, but if you ask Elazer at any given moment in the last 2 years, who's your favorite Zerg? The answer will always be Dark. He definitely looks up to this guy in one way or the other. And last year, this man crushed his dreams. This time, Elazer is trying to become the master himself.
Well, yeah, Dark crushed his dreams pretty hard. 3-0 last year. At least this time, if Elazer does end up falling and say, I got a game, and it was a decent game, too. Like, that's a clever little build that he did, but I said that I don't believe he can do it again. I'm not sure he'll ever try something as clever, but hey, if it goes into Roach versus Roach, I said Tunneling Claws, drop Overlords again, could be quite sneaky. And I would love to see some severe, like, actual multitasking from both parties go down. So far, it's just really been Dark hammering away.
Yep, it's just really hard to win a game of StarCraft 2 if you're never attacking. And in the previous game, Elazer never really had a chance to attack. He tried it once with the Roach drop, but it was already too late because the Spire was already done. So the multi-prong that he was looking for, it just had almost no potential because of the way the early game went. This time we see identical openings on both sides, very early Baneling Nest on both sides, because this is one of these maps where there's no way you can ever skip a Baneling Nest. In general in ZVZ, you're not supposed to be able to skip a Baneling Nest unless you go for like a full wall of queens on the whole position, and there has to be a ramp going into your natural, and you're okay with staying on 2 bases. But a quick 3 base and no Baneling Nest, that's normally not a build order we see.
Yeah. Well, Dark is continuing to drone. Let's see if he had to. Okay, there's some lings. Again, we usually have some scuffles around someone's third. That can sometimes turn the game, but more often leads to, you know, tiny little changes in the worker count. 16 lings now on the way. Elazer, the one still droning. He's going to be on the defensive once again.
Yep, but he is already getting defensive Baneling, so he knows that he's taking a small risk right now with still producing drones. This is an excellent little scout. These 2 lings are going to spot the lings that Dark just made. Elazer once again already has the safety Banes. There is an Overlord in an interesting position there. I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, those are Banelings already for Dark, but there is still defensive Banes for Elazer. Elazer does find them immediately as well. Maybe a tiny bit too late. One of them is going to blow up those 2 Zerglings, but at least he's shutting it down before it's ever truly beginning.
Well, the third base doesn't really have a lot of defense. Elazer, I don't know what was happening in the bottom position, but a lot of lings are chasing other lings, basically, and missed the ramp, I suppose. But Banelings waddle over, now protecting their third base along with their mamas, the queens. And Elazer is going into Roach Warren, still getting a couple more drones. Dark, though, definitely has caught up, kind of gotten what he wanted from the little aggression.
So we've missed this, but I love this. Those are the 2 Zerglings early on, and Elazer has been busy with these all along. And obviously he will not get much done with 2 Zerglings, but you're forcing your opponent to pay attention to those 2 lings as they're going to trade Banelings perhaps. So he's keeping Dark on the back feet as well, because Dark wants to make sure he doesn't lose track of those 2 Zerglings, and those Zerglings morph into Banelings. Good job so far by Elazer defending, but I love this. This is just incredibly annoying for Dark, because he has to worry about it, and now there are 2 more Zerglings chilling there.
Yeah, he's getting shift queued, constantly scouting as well, and dealing with the aggression. Dealing with the aggression, there we go. Not losing too much. In fact, taking pretty efficient trades. Elazer has a much bigger army now that he's making a ton of roaches.
Yeah,
Dark is going to be in trouble. He's going for a lair and evolution chamber.
I think he's going to go for it. Elazer's probably not going to tack up. He's just going to make roaches, run across the map with roaches, lings, and banelings. Ascension to Ire is a very long map, as Dark is once again looking for a big connection. Got awfully close there. Doesn't get it yet. Now for Dark, it's important he figure out what's going on. These 2 Zerglings have finally sneaked into the main base. Elazer is going to make his march across the map. He is down 13 workers, so this push is very, very committed. He's still not tacking up. Elazer's tournament life is on the line with this push.
Yeah, Dark does not bother to start that +1. He knows what's on the way, so he's also getting a couple of spine crawlers. The Banelings were found in the main base, and Elazer has a long way to travel to reinforce this push. Could it actually work? He does have the army supply advantage, but Defender's advantage is usually stronger.
It's going to get very close indeed. He has a few more roaches, but Dark is producing as many roaches as he possibly can, and he's got a lot of defensive Banelings.
Oh, the Banelings of Dark do collide in with the roaches, leaving Elazer with 3 of them trying to do the same.
Whoa.
To Dark, not bad on that. Spinecrawler, only one of them is getting attacked by the Lings. Queens are trying to help out desperately. Drones are being pulled. That's the advantage Dark had. They might just die, and the Elazer might be able to macro out of this, but it is so dedicated without a lair, without any upgrades.
Yeah, and he's making 36 links, so he has absolutely no intentions of tacking up anytime soon. That looked alright for Elazer, and he does still have the advantage. I like that he's morphing a couple of roaches into Ravagers, because they were all so damn low in HP. Dark is getting more defensive Banes. Very good hold so far by Dark, but those Banes from Elazer did do a lot of damage. If that didn't happen, I think it would have been a lot worse for the Polish Zerg.
Full health Spinecrawler on the front line is going to help a lot. The Lings flood in. They got to be careful. One more Baneling is left. He moves the Spinecrawler.
He needs to kill the Bane.
No, he barely gets it. Ling's going to be able to help out a decent amount. The Spinecrawler still lives. He's not going to even get a shot off, though. 2 Banelings collide in. This is still very close. The Elazer has the army supply lead, and once again, drones have to be pulled.
Yeah, but Ravagers are so squishy, though. They do a lot of damage, but the Elazer needs a little more than just a couple of Ravagers. Insane micro by Dark there. Could have been a lot worse for him. Elazer did a good... Oh, the triple kill on the Overlords. but still, Elazer needs more. He's still down 8 workers, and he still does not have a layer.
Every time you look at the army supply, it looks so promising for Elazer, but it's a lot of Lings flooding across the map. It's a lot in production. And as you said, the Ravagers, they need that protection. Otherwise, they really have that grid of supply.
Yep, and 4 more Banelings being warped. It's incredibly important for Dark that he gets those defensive Banelings, because you don't want to get swarmed. I like this little distraction maneuver by Elazer as he gets a few drones. He's going to distract him even more by sending more Lings into the main, and this is obviously the moment for his main forces to collide on that third base.
Dark was also supply blocked and might be once again, I believe. Banelings collide with some of the Lings, but Elazer starting to rack up the drone kills, is just getting whatever he can and escaping.
Yeah, he just can't fight against the Roaches. These Ravagers need a little bit of protection. Now Elazer decides to build more Roaches, and a few Roaches have showed up as well. Is Elazer okay with the damage he's done? He killed quite a few drones in the last 2 minutes, but he's still making more units behind this.
If he had started a lair at any point, perhaps, but he's always been investing gas into Roaches and Ravagers, so he's never really been able to afford one. He did once again supply block Dark, but he's finally fully on supply blocked. Still, I was right, still on supply blocked. Dark didn't even start +1. I didn't even realize he had never started Roach speed. He really took that attack seriously.
Yeah, and he had to. I mean, it's still incredibly close. It's 88 army supply, 90 army supply against 66, but once again, defender's advantage in ZVZ, especially on a large map like this, can be crucial. A couple of Banelings in the mix as well. This is it for Elazer. Can he somehow break the man that has never been broken offline by a non-Korean?
A couple of Banelings in the front just get picked off by the Ravagers. More and more Roaches flooding in here. Elazer looking for that strong final push. Perhaps Dark underestimated it by getting a couple more drones. I don't know. The Ravagers are going to lose their fodder soon enough. They need a couple more good corrosive biles. There they are. He splits away from them. And this, I don't know if Elazer actually has enough, but the hatchery is low. The Roaches are going down. There's no more Queen support. And Dark, it might be abandoning ship.
Yep, I mean, Dark is going to give up on that base. He realizes he does not have enough to kill these Ravagers. He's going to go back all the way into his natural. He does have a lot of Roaches here. Elazer is still chasing this army. Can Elazer once again qualify for the global finals? He is getting awfully close.
Oh, if he actually is able to do it and break Dark's win record against
Oh
Hornets, that would be amazing. The corrosive biles hit beautifully on top of the Roaches. The drones try and go back to mining, but Dark is now at half the army supply and retreating into his main base.
The Polish Zerg is getting incredibly close, and he might be able to do it here. He might be able to do what no other non-Korean has ever done, as Dark's supply is only at 40. The Ravagers might fall eventually, but not before all these roads